and welcome to D-Vlog. And today I'm doing a slightly different interview today. It's not a black metal act from Sweden. It's not a metalcore act or something like that. But I am talking to the world's only heavy metal marine biologist,
Yeah.
Blowfish.
You know what? Most people just call me Fish.
Fish is fine. Right. Tom, I binge watched all of all the sharks, and it's fantastic. Really, really enjoy it. It's like a photography challenge with a bit of extra jeopardy meets marine wildlife show. Have I described it right there, or can you elaborate on that for me, please?
No, I think you've hit the nail fairly well on the head there. Um, it's some terrible bastardized version of Race Across the World versus Top Gear versus NHU with a sprinkling of Great British Bake Off thrown in,
Yeah,
and the idea behind it were from the brain trust, the guys that put it together. The idea behind it was just a new, fresh, and more engaging take on wildlife because for years and years and years, and this is to no fault of its achievements, but for years and years and years, our blue chip wildlife, these great, huge epics, wow, they've looked fantastic, but they don't engage.
mm,
It is all three-quarter speed. It's all slow motion. It's all big shots, big cineramics, which fine.
mm,
But you watch it and then you switch off afterwards. You don't take anything away with you.
mm,
So the idea that the guys came up with for all the sharks is just this brilliant mix of, as you say, there's travel, there's adventure, there's obviously sharks, which are great. There's a little bit of sort of top trumps thrown in there as well. Which are the better sharks? How many points are they worth?
mm.
And yeah, and depending on who you speak to, some people say, "Oh, it's Pokemon Go with sharks," and I'm old enough for it to be Pokemon Snap with sharks. So
I'm old enough to remember when it was before Pokemon.
mm,
Um, so Netflix appear to have pitched it as a kids show, but I would say watching it, it's a family show in that there are adults competing really, and it's kid friendly, but there's a big educational element to it, where you find out lots about the different species of sharks. You keep the viewer well informed. Um, do you think it's just pitched to as Netflix kids because it's full of educational stuff?
so the show is literally for everybody,
Exactly.
and the way that obviously it goes out into the world, birthed onto the operating table that is Netflix, not via C-section if we're lucky, allows it to access all the various different areas. Now, kids love sharks; they absolutely love them. It was
Oh, mate,
always going to do well with kids,
absolutely.
and the thing is that like shark nuts, people like me, were essentially just kids with beards,
Mm.
so we love it as well. So it's done in the UK. It's done really, really well with kids, but it's done really, really well with children around the globe and families as well. It's incredible how it fills a gap that I don't think anyone really knew was there, and
Mm.
puts a stamp on its very own show. It's exciting, it's thrilling, it's engaging. We've got a competition element, which is fine,
Hmm.
great, fantastic. But here we don't have four teams trying to weasel each other out so they can
Uh,
win whatever money. It's four teams, eight people who are big, passionate people about wildlife, about the oceans. And if they win, the money goes to a charity of their choice.
absolutely.
So the like the heart behind it and everything is all there. So yeah, whether little uns are going to watch it and start, counting up the points of what's this worth or what's that worth, or whether you're going to get this sort of the adults watching it who get to see sharks in a different light, because
Mm.
that's the other thing as well. We show you sharks as they actually are,
Mm.
not as they are portrayed 9, 10, 12 times out of 11. where it's always big fear and this, that, and the other. No, this is it. This is how it is. I mean, there are
Absolutely.
some shark species that you will see on all the sharks that will never have been on screen before,
Mm.
and they're not rare. They're not unheard of. But because they didn't fit into that, that big five, the big scary ones, they never got their 15 minutes of fame. So it's really good that we got a chance to show that.
Absolutely, and I really appreciated the fact that you also showed when they don't show up, and
Yes.
you showed when the currents were pulling people away, and they had to call it a day and stuff like that. It's really warts and all. It's real. So that's something I really enjoyed. Staying with young people, that you've been incredibly active in educational programs for young people, and and for 3 years you were the face of the Marks and Spencers Marine Conservation Program, which involved over 300,000 children. That work must be really rewarding for you. I mean, is part of your main sort of work model to pass it on to the next gen?
The next gen and this gen and the previous gen.
Mm,
I do not believe in the concept of you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach any dog any trick with the right kind of bone.
yeah.
And I like to think that I am that bone.
Mm,
And it's when I'm doing my what is now collectively known as science communication, but when I first started it was just being loud. Uh,
mm,
when I'm doing my science communication, it's different strokes for different folks. So
mm,
talking to kids, you're going to play up. I mean, I can't remember a science fair or a school visit I haven't done where just mentioning the words snot or wee or
mm.
poo, bang,
Oh
you've
yeah.
got, and the thing is, you've got them, and they love it, and they go out and they're telling the mum and dad about it. But then something that I've been, really passionate about as well is what I always refer to as pub biology.
Mm,
You can sit with your mates in the pub and you can talk about, I mean, Top Gear, good old fashioned Top Gear did this very, very well. It was a car show, but not for car nerds. It was a
mm,
car show for people who liked cars, and there's a big difference there. And that kind of conversations that they would have, getting the bullet points out, those water cooler facts, I believe is the
mm,
the tagline for them. And that's how I see it. I see pub biology because you can inspire someone of any age to care about something if you can connect with them. So it's looking to find that connection. Now, the kids, they're really easy to connect to. They just want to know, is it slimy? Is it gross? Is it, whatever? Can I shock my parents telling it? And they love it and they lap it up. But talking to, young adults and, and old, everyone in between, young adults all
mm,
the way up to those collecting their pensions, all you need to do is actually connect with them. And I
mm.
think once you've done that, people start making a difference. People start making changes. If someone cares about something and you can give them, and this is another thing that I'm really, really big on, and I hope as well that, we can build on all the sharks and take from this as well, is that, you can give them a problem like conservation. You can say, look, you really like these animals, they're amazing, they are suffering. A lot of shows seem to stop there. And
Mm.
that doesn't help anyone. You've
No.
given someone a load of problems and then you've walked out the door.
Yeah.
And what I like to do is say, here's the problem, here's the solution, and here's actually how it's already working because, that exists.
Mm.
So we like to try and give people the big picture. But I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a child or a priest
Mm.
or someone in fancy dress painted up in silver paint. I
Mm.
will talk to them about sharks until various accessories fall off their body. So,
The show must have taken like quite a long time to shoot because you're in locations all over the world. And you do say on the last episode how many miles you've covered, and it's quite astonishing. So, can you give me a little bit behind the scenes here about what kind of time frame that kind of production takes? I mean, it must have been a while.
well, we were working on a pretty intense production schedule. So, all in all, we filmed from July 2024, and got back home at the start of September.
Right.
So it was, so we had 2 months. But that isn't, 2 months with weekends.
Mm.
We just kept going. A day off for us was a travel day.
Sure.
And the contestants obviously had their dive days, and then they had a down day, which was there for obviously for safety reasons to give them a chance to recover before they fly. When you're diving, you pick up the
Mm.
dissolved gases, you need to get the gas off, fine. But even then, on that dive day, myself and the rest of the production team would be working.
Mm.
There'd be people going out and getting stock footage. The producers would be going through each individual photo the divers had taken,
Mm.
checking them, making sure it was the right species, making sure it was the right points. They were even checking because I've been asked. They were like, "Oh, well, why couldn't someone take 5 photos of the same shark and claim it
Yeah.
5 times?" Because our producers sat down and for a whole day they went through every single photo, and you can
Wow.
ID sharks by their dorsal fin. So if they got 10 photos of the same shark, it was like, no, you only get points for that once.
Sure.
And so, yeah, and then we'd have a wrap up day where we film the conclusion and, me speaking to the contestants. They might get some chat with the contestants and whatnot. And then put everything back in the bag, and off we
Yeah.
go again.
Wow.
So it was, yeah, we, Maldives, Australia, Japan, South Africa, um, then Bimini, and then all the way across to the
Mm.
Galapagos. Yeah, it was full on. But by the time we were landing in South Africa, we were a pretty well-oiled unit. We knew
Mm.
how it was going. But when the production team initially left Los Angeles, they had 3 imperial tons of luggage.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Well,
yeah.
you were a bit disappointed when you got to South Africa that the great whites were being a bit elusive.
Yes and no, no and yes. It's a tricky one to do because, like, say, I've done a lot of diving with great whites, and I know some of the contestants have done some great white stuff as well. And often for that kind of scenario, especially in South Africa, where visibility in the water isn't great,
Mm.
you have to basically bait the sharks to you. So this is when you
Mm.
do chumming. This is when you have,
Mm.
a chum slick in the water, and as the sharks come in, you'll have an experienced boat handler who will be able to pull a tuna head, usually on a rope, to move the sharks into position. So that's how much effort you have to go through to get a great white to come to you, because
Sure.
unless you're a seal, you're just,
Yeah.
why bother? Um, and then the other scenario is when we're working with great whites in that fashion, we always work in the cage because there's chum in the water.
Sure.
So, a wetsuit will pick up chum. You're then, a unit in the water. It's not a clever environment. Now, obviously, when our divers were going down in South Africa, they were in the open ocean, no cages, nothing like that. So, if they were going to come across a great white, it would be in a much more natural setting. It would
Mm.
be in a way that they could interact with it on an even keel, rather than being in a scenario where they've chucked in a load of chum in the water and then
Sure.
got into a cage, which it
Mm.
doesn't really, it's not the ethos of the show. That's a
No.
bit kind of sit and watch. But
Yeah.
there are other places that great whites frequent, and should the shark gods or the Netflix gods, I'm not too sure who I need to sacrifice a goat to, but should they grant us a series two, then we can try for that again. But this is the thing about whenever you're working with wild animals, you
Mm.
don't know what you're going to find. They
No.
don't get the call sheet in the morning. They turn up if they want to turn up, and yeah. So it, like I say, hit and miss. It was a shame we didn't see any great whites, but at the same time, we got to highlight the number of endemic species around South Africa that really never get seen. As I said, we showed some sharks on camera that have never been on camera before.
Absolutely. And I think it was also good to show how unbothered the great whites were to get a bit of realism going in there because I'm pretty sure, well, not National Geographic, maybe one of those more trashy programs would have you believe the second you set your toe in the water in South Africa, you get a great white on you. Because the amount of like documentaries about killer great white jumping out the ocean and all that sort of stuff, what they
Mm.
don't show you is the fact that they've been chumming that water for ages. People are in cages. There's a bit of controversy about the ethics of doing that. tourists having cage diving and all of that, essentially ringing the dinner bell and putting people in the, in like tourists down there who probably just aggravating matters. I mean, yeah, so at this point, our viewers are probably wondering why I'm talking to a marine biologist for a heavy metal magazine. Now, it says in your intro, you are the world's only heavy metal marine biologist.
Yes.
Now, I've got to ask, like being a marine biologist is a very heavy metal thing to do. I would say it's one of the most metal thing jobs. I would say hanging around with great whites, pretty heavy metal.
It's fairly metal, yeah.
Have you never come across another one?
Oh yeah, but I mean it's a Highlander deal. So,
So you have to kill him.
we have to kill them. Obviously aquariums are holy ground. You can't fight in aquariums. But no, and every other, heavy metal marine biologist that I murder, I absorb their soul. I become hairier. I have a plaque for each
Oh, that's all
each
the
one.
kills.
That's all the kills right there.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So, people are willing to step up and, if you've seen Afro Samurai, I'm holding the number one headband. If you want to come and chance yourself, feel free.
Brilliant. So with that in mind, I recently watched, and this is totally by coincidence, and then this interview dropped into my inbox. But I recently, because I'm a big Shark fan, I recently saw a thing that someone sent to me and said, "This is up your alley." Apparently, Great White's favorite music was death metal.
Yes. Yeah.
There's been people putting speakers in the ocean. Death metal's the way to attract them. Can you confirm or deny this?
Well, you're talking to the only person alive ever to play live heavy metal to sharks, not once, but twice on
Amazing.
two separate continents.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And do they just come up? They're just drawn to it.
Yep, they love it. They absolutely love it. So the way that it works is sound is a very important part of the shark's repertoire in terms of hunting down foods, hunting down foodstuffs, and the sort of the classic metal bass line, the da 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 da
Yeah.
da 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 da. It mimics the thrash of an injured fish. So if you've
Ah,
got an injured fish, it'll go da 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 da
yeah.
like that. So and it will bring the sharks in. But what's really really interesting for me, as I say, I've been able, I'm if someone else has done it more than me, fine, they can tell me. But I'm fairly sure I'm the only person alive ever to do it twice, playing live, not like with a CD and
Playing the
pumping it down.
guitar.
Oh yeah, on a bass guitar. I was playing bass
Oh,
guitar
mate.
into the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not playing around,
Proper.
mate. Yeah, oh
Proper.
yeah,
Yeah.
proper job. I'm from Yorkshire, mate. We do it big or we
I'm
don't do
from
it at all.
Yorkshire.
There we go. This is how it is. Um, so yeah, when they come in and they investigate the speaker, they're really really interested in it. They and the way they interact with it is incredible as well, because obviously it's an unknown unit in their environment. They're getting other cues in terms of what they can see, what they can sense,
Hmm.
but it's also going, I'm injured, I'm injured, I'm injured.
Right.
So you see them come in, and like when we did it because we did it off Cornwall and I did it in South Africa, and when we did it off Cornwall, we got these blue sharks coming in,
Hmm.
and they come right up to the speaker and they're nosing it and they're kind of gently gumming it because they're like, you sound like a meal, but you taste like metal. This is not good. But yeah, so I did it in Cornwall and I did it in South Africa. And while other
Amazing.
people have played CDs to sharks and
Hmm.
other people may have tried it, I'm fairly sure I'm the only person ever to do it twice live. Like I say, with bass guitar in hand.
There you go.
That's the key element. But yeah, I mean, of course, sharks like metal. Come on, look
Yeah,
at
of
them.
course, of course. And I've got a niggle with these people anyway. They said they like death metal, and they were playing them Darkest Hour, which is obviously thrash hardcore. They got it all wrong.
The
But
initial, this'll upset you. The initial, because it upset me. It might not upset you actually, so it's maybe slightly contentious. But the initial studies that were done quite a while ago, when they first kind of found this, were I think they were Australian scientists,
mm,
but it was AC/DC that they first used, and I was like, yeah,
yeah.
we could have done better.
Well,
We
yeah,
could have done better.
you You see, I always think Sharks are more Slayer than AC/DC.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
think, or maybe sort of, classic Metallica.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
it's,
fast.
yeah, it's just Anthrax, sort of, really,
Perfect.
yeah, cut and dry, really quite simple battle jackets, not like a million billion bands you've not heard of.
Yeah.
They'll mosh, but they'll also stand at the back and, just nod.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not show ponies. We're, trying to get really involved with it.
Well, absolutely. And you mentioned on the show the Sharknado, which is nothing to do with the film, the actual Sharknado. I would argue that's their version of a circle pit.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. So, as a child, what got you down the marine biology path? Because I understand your dad was a very respected veterinarian. So that's an introduction to animals, but marine biology is a specialist, thing.
Yeah, it's uh, I think it's potentially a story that's shared by quite a few others of our particular generation, which, yeah, like you say, my old man, he's a vet. And I used to, I mean, he still practices now, but
Mm.
back in the day, I used to go around with him all the Yorkshire farms
Mm.
when I would out put a pup, and I'd see him working on horses and whatnot. So animals, working with animals, and biology was just de rigueur.
Mm.
I was always going to be a biologist. It was in my blood. But I don't know. I always somehow seem to have a bit of a connection more with the oceans. I like fishes.
Mm.
I remember very vividly when I was young. One of my all-time absolutely top favorite movies that I will quite happily die on is the original Transformers movie 1986.
Yeah.
And there's an underwater section in that with Cup and Hot Rod. And as a kid, I was like, I just like all this underwater stuff's cool. But it kind of crystallized when I was about 7 or 8, and a next door neighbor played a really cruel trick on me. They said, "Oh yeah, we're going to watch Crocodile Dundee," and like, yeah, great, Crocodile Dundee, and it wasn't Crocodile Dundee, it was Jaws,
My favorite
and
film.
yeah, well, but at 7 or 8, it
Oh yeah.
absolutely pantsed me.
Yeah.
But as well as being, really, really terrified of sharks at that point, I also, and I often describe it as if you've got an ulcer in your mouth. You can't
Mm.
stop tonguing it.
Yeah.
You keep,
Yeah.
you can't help it. And it was the same with me and sharks.
Mm.
So I was terrified of them, but I wanted to learn. I was like, what, it was kind
Mm.
of weird fascination. And by the time I was 12, 13, I knew more about sharks than most people ever
Yeah.
would. Now, my mum and dad, they'd worked, and continued to work in the veterinary realm for a long, long time. And they saw that, it was changing. It wasn't quite as James Herriot as it was. It was
Yeah.
becoming more corporate. And they said, look, expand your wings, see what's what. And we were at an aquarium in Florida, at a vet conference of all things, and went through this shark tunnel. They had a big shark tank and a shark tunnel, and that was the first time. It was like 13. It was the first time I'd ever seen a real live shark,
Mm.
and I vividly remember popping out the other side and saying to my mum and dad, "I'm going to be a marine biologist," and
That was it.
that was it. And
That
I
was the
did.
Eureka.
That was it. It was just like I'm doing this,
Mm.
and it's meant to be because I totally get fish,
Yeah.
and I am called fish, so it kind of works.
Yeah, they can smell their own.
Mm.
They actually can.
That's quite good. I like that. I do like that. It's good. I'm
So,
going to use that liberally. I'm stealing. That's mine now, George. Thank you very
have it.
much.
Have
Thank
it.
you.
So, when did your fascination for metal begin? When did you become a heavy metaler?
So
At the same time?
I don't know really because I remember growing up, there was no music that I liked. Any music I heard, I
Mm.
didn't like. It just, everyone else was listening to, Radio One on their way to school and stuff. And,
Mm.
you know, I remember, if my mum was taking me to school, she used to have like Radio Two on for herself and Terry Wogan and that. But I just didn't like any of it.
Mm.
And, but what I did like, coming back to Transformers the movie, was that kind of music. So,
Oh, that had the best soundtrack. That
amazing,
it was awesome.
So, I mean, that was mid 80s sort of power hair metal, if you're
Yeah.
trying to pigeon it. But it was, quality chords, and I mean, if you can withstand even a minute with your skin calm when you hear the "you got the touch," then you are not alive. That
If
is
it's not air
how.
grabbing,
Oh, mate, you got the power, and then the big chord.
yeah, mate.
So I think that planted the seeds. And then I don't know. I never, ever, ever liked any music that I heard, and there was like songs here and there that I kind of got on with. But I remember my first sort of proper CD was the very, very first Top Gear driving anthems. And it
Mm,
had some cool little tunes on it, a lot of indie stuff,
mm,
things like, the Lars, There She Goes, and
mm,
Breakfast at Tiffany's, that kind of jazz. But it had Place Your Hands On by Reef,
mm-hmm.
and then that was it. So I got into Reef,
That was
and
your
I know
gateway.
Reef. Yeah, I know Reef aren't a metal band, but they're still
Yeah.
very, very, very close to my heart. But Reef were rock and roll, and
Mm.
from there, just went into it, and yeah, so very early doors. Aware of things like. Oh, well, obviously, I came into it just at the time as, new metal was about to go
Mm.
big, but yeah, I remember silly songs like Presidents of the United States of America and Peaches,
Mhm.
Rocket from the Crypt on a Rope.
I remember that era.
Yeah, that those kind of bits. But I am proud to have been a I would say a card carrying member of a now defunct, now demolished Zubar in Halifax, and it
Right.
was it was an absolute hole. But those that know will know. So if anyone
I
who
know Halifax
picks,
well.
well, if you did you ever go to the Zubar?
Never went to the Zuba. No.
Mate, it lived up to its name. But yeah, it was there that I came across within one night. I came across things like Killing in the Name,
Mm.
Imperium. Oh my God, Nookie, Break Stuff,
All the classics.
For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Oh.
All that kind of stuff. And
Mm.
and then bump, that was it. So
Mm. Well.
yeah, so I think it sort of started mainly with early Metallica,
Mm.
and yeah, and just sort of went from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, heavy metal can be thematically all about drama and jeopardy quite often. Now, can you tell me your most metal shark story? Something that's happened to you where you've gone away and you thought that was pretty fucking heavy metal.
Oh, I probably can. Um, yeah, oof. Okay, so I was doing some filming for a BBC show about 10 years ago, and we were in the Bahamas. And one of the gigs we were doing was we were doing an experiment to find out if the native shark population would eat lionfish. So lionfish, venomous buggers, they
Mm.
live out in the Pacific, but they've become invasive in the Atlantic, and they are eating all the fish on the coral reefs in the Caribbean. And without the fish on the reefs don't exist. So,
Right.
what keeps them in check in the Pacific is predators. Problem is, none of the predators in the Atlantic understand what these stripy little so and so's really are. So,
Right.
the plan was right. Well, if we can get these sharks eating lionfish, we can show that they'll eat them. Then they won't regurgitate them. They're not put off by them. We can show that there could be a diet swap in future. Fine. So we went down diving, and we've got a big box, like a huge, heavy, like proper metal box full of pre-caught frozen lionfish, because we wouldn't feed live to live because that's
Mm.
not cool. So these had been caught on like a lionfish safari. So the
Mm.
locals regularly go out and harvest them up because
Mm.
they do so much damage. And what I was doing was then harpooning a lionfish and feeding it to passing sharks. And we must have got 20, 4 meter long, 3, 4 meter long Caribbean reef sharks around us, and they
Right.
are all over the place. So I had like one come up underneath me, and it's like here on my face, like
Oh,
pushing it away and sticking a lionfish into its mouth. And they just, it was a full on mosh pit. It was a full on
wow.
old school elbows out mosh pit. So that was
Pretty
pretty
well.
metal. That was pretty metal. What else? Um, I mean, I've been in the water with some fantastic sharks, but more than anything else, usually unless you get a lot of them and they're feeding, it's really just quite serene.
They're
But I'll
quite
tell,
chill, aren't
yeah, I'll tell you this though. So as I say, I've dived with a lot of great whites, and great whites are, they're quite derpy. They're swimming at you like, oh yeah,
they?
and they're also as well as they get bigger, they get quite chunky. So it's very hard to kind of be scared of them when you know them. You kind of in a way find them. I find them quite cute, but every
Right.
now and then they hit you with the predator look.
Mm.
And when I was filming this year for my Shark Week special, coming out in later in July, I was in the cage and we had a particularly large male. He was about 4.5 meters long, so a
Mm.
big boy
Mm.
and girthy boy as well, proper bulldog of a shark. And I looked to the left in my cage, and I didn't have the cage I was in had three cage sides and then a plexiglass front.
Right.
So the plexiglass you could see through, and the minute it hits the water, it's invisible, it's gone. So it's
Mm.
like it's not there. And I remember as the cage came round, I could see this bad boy just not in any nasty way, but just swimming at me. And he
Mm.
was absolutely dead on.
Mm.
And when you're dead on and you see the size of it with the eyes and the
Mm.
teeth and the look, you're like,
Mm.
oh boy. Oh, yeah. The lizard part of your brain starts going, So that was pretty metal. That was a great moment for a marine biologist, a shark person like me, just to remember
Mm.
what they are and to remember just how privileged we are to be in the water with them and how
Mm.
it's very much their water. Um, so yeah, but yeah, I can't think of any other metal moments. There's a lot. I mean, I tell you this, I would love to listen to metal underwater while I was diving. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, do you have like headphones, underwater headphones?
Well, you can get them. I don't wear them for
No.
work because usually I've got an earpiece in so I can communicate
Yeah,
with
you
other divers and stuff.
safety.
But I would love to do just like one dive with like some Static X on in the background. That'd be
Yeah, man.
amazing.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to get on to this question now. Right, imagine, if you will, you're cast out at sea with your engine broken, surrounded by great big boys, like you say, big sharks,
Yes.
swimming all around the boat, and you have 5 albums to keep you company. Which five are you taking? 5 albums till help arrives.
Okay. 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 Master of Puppets because Leper Messiah, Orion, Master.
All
I don't.
killer.
I do not need to continue with that.
Yeah.
So Master of Puppets, Latralis,
That'll keep you
Cannibal.
going. Hmm?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you could listen to Latralis, and that's like one song's like 4 days, so that's
Yeah, if
that
they're
covered.
late coming, you'll still be on
Yeah.
it.
Cannibal, because although it's probably not the best Static X album for most people, if there are some banging tunes on Cannibal.
Bit levity.
Um, what else? Probably. Oh, I might take Mutter because
Oh,
yeah, I like my
yeah.
industrial metal, so I might take Mutter.
That might attract the
Um,
sharks more, actually. But
mm, um, oh, and then the Blackening
nice.
because clenching Fist of Descent is
Wow.
an
Yeah.
absolute
Mm.
tune,
Yeah.
and
They
yeah,
haven't they
so
haven't surpassed it since.
no, no, and they
Not even
won't.
they won't. No, they
No,
peaked.
yeah.
They peaked. Right. So, and if indeed sharks love death metal, mind you, we have kind of covered this. Are we going to say they're old school or new school? I'd
Old
say they're
school.
old school,
Thousand
definitely.
percent. Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
1,000%. They're not in for any of this sleep token nonsense. They need,
No.
they need like "I'm Broken" by Pantera.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
they're
what they
old
want.
school.
Oh,
Yeah,
1,000%.
definitely. Don't even know why I asked that question. Right. How do you feel about the idea of the megalodon?
To what extent?
Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's out there?
Oh no, no, God no, it's long dead.
Uh,
Oh no, it's long dead. I mean,
uh,
obviously it completely existed. It did exist,
mm,
but no, it long died. The the problem with Megalodon is it actually ate itself into extinction.
mm.
So it got so big that it couldn't catch enough to keep itself going because
Ah,
it became a victim of its own success. And in the fossil record, we see that as Megalodon died, that is about the same time as you start getting the rise of toothed whales.
mm,
So things like sperm whales, like the dolphins as well. So when
mm,
whales went from being well, we don't quite know what they were eating back then, but we can assume when they made the move from these filter feeders, these sort more kind of mass feeders
mm,
into, oh, suddenly whales can become predatory.
mm.
Whales did that because Megalodon went,
Right,
yeah,
right. Because I had heard like, oh, it might still be out there,
no,
sort of stories. But no,
no,
good. We
no,
shut that down.
absolutely, completely biologically and ecologically impossible. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely some great honking chonkers down there.
Mm,
Oh, sunshine. Oh,
mm.
yes. I'm talking 2 a.m. last dance at the nightclub kind of chonkers.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, and oh dear. But
Yeah.
not Megalodon, I'm afraid.
There we go. That's cleared that up. There are many marine conservation charities out there. I myself am a member of Sea Shepherd, and they always come across quite metal with their skulls and business like that. Can you tell me about any like sea conservation charities you think we should know about that are doing great work at the moment? If people are thinking of giving money to any of these causes?
So I am an ambassador for the Marine Conservation Society, the Shark Trust UK, and I'm a big supporter of the South African Shark Conservancy. So I would encourage people to support them, and you can do that in loads of different ways. That doesn't mean you have to pay any money. So for the Marine Conservation Society, they've done a huge amount of work creating a good fish guide. And this allows you to keep eating fish, but to make better choices on what fish to eat and where and how. So doesn't cost you any extra money. You can get
Mm,
that for free. You can go onto their website. It basically is essentially a web page that continues to update, but you save it to your phone as an app. So it's an app, but
mm,
it's updating all the time. Lets you know what's the right fish to eat from where and how it was caught. The Shark Trust, which is another one very close to my heart. It's a UK charity, and they do great work in terms of policy, pushing fisheries and politicians to make wise decisions and better choices. You can support them by just letting them know where you find mermaids' purses, which are
mm,
shark eggs. So
mm,
they do the great egg case hunt, and they ask people, to when they're out on the beaches, if they find these egg cases, to ID them. They provide an ID guide online. ID them and submit your results. Again, doesn't cost you anything, but it tells them so much about the world around us in terms of our own shark populations. And then with the South African Shark Conservancy, this is out in South Africa, obviously,
mhm,
and they are a really, really passionate group of people who have not a lot of funding, but a huge amount of passion and will and drive and everything. And they do some great work with the endemic species, not just the great whites, but the pajama sharks and the swell sharks. And that is something I would say perhaps put your hand into your pocket for,
mhm,
because they're based in South Africa, and the pound or the dollar, whoever's watching this,
mm,
is worth a lot of rand.
mm.
So you can make a small donation in terms of your own currency, and to them,
Big
it
difference.
make a big difference. So
Amazing.
and that will go 100% to science. It goes to, making sure they can feed the sharks that they have in their labs. It will pay for them to go out and do another shark dive. So, it's not going into some fat cat's pocket. It's going right into science. So they'd be the three charities that I, flag up right here, right now.
Absolutely. Well, that's brilliant. Before you go, you've had many things go out, yeah, many programs and stuff like that. What have you got coming up? Obviously, All the Sharks is on right now at Netflix. Go binge watch it. It's brilliant. What else you got coming up?
Well, aside from all the sharks, let's mention it again. That's all
Hmm.
the sharks, just in
On
case. One more time for the algorithm.
on Netflix.
On Netflix, all the sharks. Two thumbs up and watch it through to the end. So the next thing I've got coming out is a bit of a fun, bit of a silly, because I don't take myself seriously. I don't like, I'm not in for that. I'm a regular bloke, the same as anyone else, and I don't try and be some, high and mighty. Oh, I know better than you because I dive with sharks nonsense.
Hmm.
No, I'm hairy and I have to fall asleep face down the same as the rest of us. For this year's Shark Week, I am on a show called When Sharks Attack,
Hmm.
explaining exactly about why shark attacks. You don't need to be worried about them and this, that, and the
Hmm.
other. And then I have my own show that I'm hosting, which is called Surviving Jaws, and
Hmm.
we look at all the things that happen in Jaws and say, is this myth or is this reality? And
Nice.
how would you survive Jaws?
Hmm.
And we have a lot of fun doing that.
I
I
need to
end
see
up in
that.
some very interesting situations um, with not a lot of clothes on. So if that isn't
Okay.
enough of a hook and tease, I don't know what is.
Well, we've sold it as much as we can to them.
There we go. There we go. That's it. That'll do. Job done. Cut, print, paste, copy, everything
Boom.
else.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure and an education. So,
I try it. I mean, I'll bill you for the educating later. So
my editor, yeah,
yes,
she'll look
every
after
time.
it. All right. Thanks so much, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Take care.